All right, perfect. Episode 6, I believe. Again, we're not the professionals, but we're still keeping track of things here. Back with Jamie Bell. What's going on, my guy? How we doing here today?
Emmett, I'm doing well today. How are you, my man? It's Easter coming up here in 2 days, so enjoying the beautiful weather here in Southern California, and looking forward to seeing some family and friends this weekend.
Another great. Oh, it is Good Friday, so we'll just go with
Mm-hmm.
it's another good day and good in paradise over here. Um, again, off camera, off of the pod here, we were talking a little bit. But we can jump right into I guess the kind of the digital space, and then we'll talk about that as well. People saw the digital art from the Christie's auction. The first digital art collection was sold for almost $70 million by Beeple, who's one of those NFT kind of digital art creators. What's kind of your take on that market, and what do you like and dislike about it here in the future here?
So yeah, NFTs have caught in a bit of a craze over the last month or two. And what Beeple is the guy that creates the art, right?
Beeple,
Or
yeah, Beeple was the guy who made the art. So Beeple's kind of background, like he was always a digital creator, kind of. So he,
gotcha.
for the past like I think 8 years, he was posting like every single day on Instagram, like digital art, like not getting paid for any of it, not doing like
Uh-huh.
limited prints, not doing any of that stuff. And then all of a sudden, he made a massive collage of that.
Yep, I saw the picture. Yep.
Yeah.
Keep
And
going.
so
Keep going though.
and then he kind of blew up. And now he's got like over 1 million followers on Instagram, like through social. And
Gotcha.
then he was the first digital artist that was featured on the um,
Christie's auction.
Christie's auction, which is the
Gotcha.
usually for traditional art, but he was the first
Mhm.
digital artist on there.
Interesting. So what website do people mostly use for to buy and sell this? Or is it solely on the blockchain or things like that? I do you happen to know? I think there's like a website people go to, but that's
Yeah, no, I've bought a few pieces actually. So like the biggest ones like is the NBA Top Shots is like what
okay.
most people have heard of, but there's another one called Nifty Gateway,
Mhm.
and then Crypto Slam, kind
Mhm.
of just kind of they sound very crypto
Gotcha.
in
No,
that
yeah.
whole like blockchain world.
Okay.
But
So
Nifty
you
Gateway is
you've
the one
you've
where I've
dabbled, you
purchased on.
you you've been involved. Are you more involved with sports related?
No,
Uh,
actually, I steer clear of that whole. So, how much do you really know about like the NBA Top Shot kind of like world? Have you seen those? Do you
mm-mm.
know?
I
So
do
it's
not
kind of
know.
like they capture a moment in history.
Yep,
So like a Luka Doncic dunking or like a LeBron game-winning
of
three-pointer,
course.
and you can open up a pack of those, and you might get it, you might not, or you can just buy the NFT outright.
Mhm.
But it's kind of hit or miss on what you can really get, and they were kind of involved recently in like a that whole sector was like a big pump and dump for a lot of people. So
Yeah,
they
and then so
those
what
got up to prices like to like probably $20,000 for some of
mhm.
them, and then just absolutely crashed recently.
Yeah. So then you've bought some digital art pieces. Do you do you kind of how do you like so when I think of traditional art, people buy these extravagant paintings, they put them up in their house, and then, you have family, friends that come over, and then you can kind of admire it together, right? I think
Yeah,
that's really the value of art is it's a bit of showmanship. I wouldn't say you're completely showing off, but I'm saying for like the ultra wealthy individuals, they like to put it up in their home. Maybe they have a room for it. It's like if you have really nice sports collectibles, maybe you have a special room for it because you want to kind of show it off a little bit.
yeah, of course.
Do you still kind of get that same sort of um, aspect with digital art? Are you just gonna kind of put it up on a monitor, or is it something you kind of just want to own? That I think that's the one thing I'm trying to work through
Yeah,
at
so
my thinking about digital art.
I think it's going to be definitely like a weird market at first. Like it's going to go through its stages. Like the few pieces that I bought, I'm only holding one. I think that it's going to be like long term. I bought two of the same piece. He minted, so they can mint however many of the pieces they want. So mine
Hmm.
was a drop of like five. So I have three I have 3 and then 4 of that artist drop apparently.
Hmm.
So I sold one
What
of
does it look
those.
like?
It's one of the first designers for a lot of like he designed a lot of the wallpapers for the iOS and like
Interesting.
Catalina and stuff like that. So like Mojave, those kind of
So
the
you can
Apple
put it up
updates.
as you could put it up as like a wallpaper on your desktop.
No, no, no. But this is
Oh,
what the
you
guy was
can't.
famous for. Yeah. So like
Gotcha. But
it's
you
so
so you
basically
have
it
these
just sits
pictures.
in
Okay.
like a I have it saved in like a digital wallet,
Uh huh.
and that sits off to my like it's in part of my desktop, so I have that saved away. But essentially where the market is kind of seems to be going is I sold one probably this life cycle of a lot of these pieces is they'll you can buy them pretty cheap. Mine I bought mine for 1,000,
Uh huh.
and then you can pretty much if you hold it for about 30 days you can probably make about double or not usually most of the time you're gonna like triple your money on those.
Uh huh.
But this piece in general I sold mine one of them for 7,000, which was like last sold. So like it's weird how you can make if you pick like decent artists and they like I don't want to say they always appreciate but most of them will appreciate because people want in on this craze.
Gotcha. And then so if the end game still hasn't kind of been found yet. I mean, is there going to be a point where you have kind of monitor sitting up embedded into a wall and you want to show this piece or
That's
around your
the other
house or
thing
how's
I
that?
was
Yeah,
gonna
because
kind
I mean,
of
I wouldn't because look, I spend a lot of I love my monitors. Yeah, I think everyone should already know by now. I haven't really, but I'm like a huge gamer personally. I think everyone realizes because I love the gaming industry, but I'm a huge gamer. I have an absolute decked out setup, so I believe in really high quality monitors with high quality, chips in them for my gaming experience. And so that's where I could see that going is if you have a really nice digital piece of art. Because if I had a piece of art, my end game would be I would actually kind of want to show it kind of like as in a traditional format to family friends that are over. So it's kind of a social experience as well. But is that kind of the end game you're thinking?
I
Because
think
I
that's
think I think art should be kind of shown, right?
yes,
I
yeah.
don't know. I don't know if it's fine for it to be in a wallet now because you need to actually own it. But I think the end game is to always be able to show this to your social circle, right?
So that's kind of what like the I don't know the usually they have the term like a lot of people made a lot of money selling the pitchforks and the shovels to the gold miners, but not
That's my favorite.
actually in
Yeah,
gold.
yeah, I love
Like
that. Yeah.
it's a huge thing. So there's a site called it's called Infinite Objects. It's essentially where you can house your digital art on if you throw it on like a USB or like a cloud drive wherever you want to put it, and it rotates through the art and it looks like a traditional canvas on your wall. So I think
Gotcha,
that's
exactly.
where
So
like the
that's
end
where
game
the
wants to be.
no, yeah, and I because it has to be, right? Art has to be because the best thing about art in like traditional artwork and paintings is it's there is a dedicated community to this stuff. As many other, I mean, there are people that can go to museums and just admire art for hours. Is that
Yeah.
my thing? Not necessarily, but I won't, but I'm not going to sit here and be like, that's dumb because there's a lot of people that really like art and it's art is something that's kind of passed down through generations that families they really appreciate, right? So I like artwork personally. My family likes artwork. We like to have up a lot in our home, and we like to talk about it. So I get it. I do like that. And if the end game is to kind of have free flowing canvases on walls, kind of in a next generation house, man, I could get behind that. And I haven't really heard anyone talk through because I haven't actually you're the first person I know that's kind of been involved with this.
Yeah,
So
see, that's it's a super new market, and that's where I'm trying to kind of get my feet wet. It's only like I said, it was only $1,000 investment, so I was like,
yeah.
I'm not
And I
putting
mean it's
the
worked
majority
out.
of my net worth into it. Oh
Of
yeah,
course.
it's I did.
It worked out, man. And I like
So
it,
I,
man.
I
It
did
makes
I did
sense.
my research. Like I didn't just I studied it for a week because I definitely wanted to impulse buy. Like the same as sports cards or any other collectible. Like you see a shiny thing and you're like, oh, gotta have this. But like I did
Mhm.
my research and I saw like kind of where the market was moving and what this piece could be, and I saw how it was trending. So I like I said, did my research and kind of jumped on board where I thought it would be more of a safe investment, and it turned out to be okay.
Well, I think that's really interesting, man. I
It's
I
tough
think
to
you
kind
yeah,
of.
your perspective is has definitely kind of changed the way I think about the digital art. I kind of liked the sports side a little bit. I mean, how do you think
See,
that this affects like physical antiques and collectibles, traditional art, traditional baseball cards, things like that? I personally think it helps it too. I think
I think
it,
it's
I
the
don't,
same as well. Yeah, I think it
yeah,
depends on who you're talking to again, but like I think I saw another video recently. They were talking about like there's different pieces that are. I guess art is kind of just one of those things where it's you either love it or you hate it, and
absolutely.
everyone's taste is totally different. So I think when it comes to digital art, I think there's still going to be a place for those antiques and traditional artworks. But I think overall it'll increase the value of these things with the way digital things are. There's always new digital art being put out every day, and not all it's going to be good. So I guess not all art is good, but I think it helps the appreciation of that older traditional market,
Yeah, yeah,
especially with scarcity, things like that really help.
yeah,
Because there's going to be
man.
some people who really just don't get what NFTs are, and people will just call it like, oh, it's just a JPEG. Like you can just go download that from anywhere. Like it's just a picture. Who cares?
Uh-huh.
Like what if? Who
Is
cares if
there
it's an
more
NFT?
quality behind the NFT image than just finding something on Google Images?
I would say so. It's more of like a personal touch as well. You get to
You have to
interact
really and you have
typically.
okay, and you really have to make sure that these guys, I mean, that you can't kind of find it on Google Images, right? Is that kind of an issue?
I think it depends too. Like I think it's one of those. I think we know we talked about a lot of the whole like traditional like millennial investors mindset. Like every time you sell a piece of NFT art, it affects the creator as well. Like so he gets paid a certain percentage regardless
Interesting.
of how many hands it trades. So he gets a percentage off his or her art will be traded a bunch, I'm sure, over the years. And every time that sale happens, they get paid for it.
Interesting. So they're incentivized to not to make sure that their art has some scarcity value to it.
Yeah, of
And that
course. So
they're
that's
just
why.
not posting JPEGs on their own personal website and saying, "Hey, just take this and save it to your desktop." That they're real, yeah. So I think the incentives are aligned for the creators too, and that's interesting. I
That's
think I think
the part of it that I liked about it was that you kind of just get a sense of like everyone can make money off of this, and now it's kind of artists are starting to feel like, not to say that artists aren't capitalists at heart because they just truly love doing their art, but at a certain point, like art doesn't pay your bills unless you're selling it.
yeah, I think there's gonna be some money to be made with being able to get the displays up on walls and things like that to actually show the art. I mean, what do you think? How
I
is
think
that gonna have to be
that's
set up?
another thing where I think a lot of these companies that are going to be it's so there's one like that I mentioned on the like the infinite objects. So once you upload that image in there, you can't put any other image on it and take it out of that display. So it's locked in there
So
forever,
there's a
just like a
there's a
traditional
company
piece of
that
art.
already does this.
Yeah, yeah. I'll link it in our Discord chat here so you can take a closer look at it.
Oh my
But
gosh.
there's certain companies that are going about it in completely different ways.
Oh, so yeah, so they print video. Here we go. I mean, this is kind of like, oh my gosh, this stuff is insane. Oh my gosh. So this is it. I get it now.
So you can see like so if you say they on their main page that they partner with the NBA, and like so you can only
Oh my
have
gosh.
one thing in like the on the screen. It's a Lakers photo.
Yeah.
So you can have one photo or like one video of LeBron dunking on there, and nothing else can
And
go
I'm
on there
assuming this
anymore.
has to obviously be hooked up to a power source of
Yeah,
some
that I think
sort.
you have to once it requires a charge, I believe. So that's another thing. Like once
Oh,
this stuff
okay.
begins, like once you can, that's the part that I'm trying to figure out. Is that's why I love art. Like it sits there. It doesn't do
Yeah.
anything. It doesn't require any of my attention.
Mm-hmm.
These you have to charge. You kind of have to. So again, we're in the early stages of this kind of
Yeah.
stuff, but again, it's a few years down the road. They'll figure out the charging and how those things will be
No, okay. That
figured out.
well, it's starting to make more sense to me. And I think things, things that have scarcity value, I always think are cool. because I think the where we why we kind of started talking about this is, you know, over the last 2 episodes, I've talked a lot about stocks and what at the end of the day, what are stocks? They are paper assets,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, I like stocks; they're great, but I mean, I'll admit there are times where things can get pretty dicey in paper assets, man, and it can be tough to stomach a large portion of your net worth and some of these paper assets. I mean, realistically, should a company be fluctuating and having 6% swings on a daily basis, like their market cap? I mean, you have a company like Tesla, which is worth, hundreds of billions of dollars, and this thing can swing up and down, 8%. And that's, we're talking about 70 to $80 billion net worth swings in a couple days. I mean, it doesn't actually make a lot of sense, so I think um, having a nice allocation to things that don't really fluctuate as crazily as paper assets like equities makes some sense, and it can be a really good inflation hedge, man, with what we see, um with what our government's been doing to our own currency. But
Yeah, which is it's an odd kind of thing as well. Like I don't know, I'm not into I don't know that much of uh about inflation and like
mhm,
I'm totally upfront and honest about like what I know and what I don't know on these things because like I don't want to steer anyone in the wrong direction. I don't want to like I do things that make sense for me and like what works for like myself. Like what I found like buying collectibles, selling collectibles, like that's worked for me and it's helped me
mhm,
invest money that way. I also have traditional stocks as well. So like
mhm,
I've holdings in everything. Real estate, there's just places you want to be and places you don't. So but the topic that we were kind of going to go on is you are way more into this space than I am. So I know my digital space. I know the kind of collectibles market pretty well, but when it comes to hedging against inflation, you were the big guy when it comes to metals and like
mhm.
gold. Kind of, can you kind of walk us
Yeah,
through why that's important
man.
in inflation and
Well
versus other paper assets?
well, I'll go, I wanna go back to something that you said, how you're like, "Hey, I don't know inflation that well. It's not something that I kinda have my finger on." Man, same thing for our central bankers and some of the smartest people in this country. Nobody knows what the Emmett, no one knows what the fuck's going on right now. So you are, and I sincerely don't really know. I mean, our government has essentially created about $8 trillion out of thin air over the last 12 months.
So, but that's kind of where it comes. Like, I understand. Again, I don't know. You see money more than I do. I think more about that. Like, but how does that affect everyone on a day to day? Like, we
Oh,
haven't seen the effects of it yet. Like, they've been printing 12 trillion dollars. Like,
Oh
where does that
yeah, we
go?
we
And like,
have we have seen it a little bit. We've seen it in real estate prices,
yeah.
especially
That's also
recently.
very
We're
true.
seeing it. We're seeing it in the S&P 500, the Nasdaq, and the Dow Jones. We're seeing it in Bitcoin. We're seeing it in cryptocurrency. That's what happens, right? When you're just printing money and sending people checks and doing all these crazy bailouts, you have the Dow Jones go from 18,000 to 33 in a straight line in a year, because I mean, people have to pile into anything, right? Anything that's not the US dollar, people want to be involved in right now for a very good reason. And I'm right there with them, man. I mean, uh, people kind of told me, and that's it's kind of the common practice. And if the government tries to do this, oh, you got to save money. I refuse to save money.
See, that's a big topic.
I
Yeah.
refuse to save US dollars. I can't do it. I don't feel comfortable holding on to too much US dollars because I'm very skeptical about what the government's doing with their currency. I look at things, let's forget about the national debt, which is a complete and utter joke. Let's talk about let's okay, right? So let's talk about our pensions and how unfunded, how much unfunded liabilities our state and local governments have. I mean, that's what scares me. I
See, that's
mean,
the we talk about like you have your father's in manufacturing and like but my dad's he worked for the I guess you could call it working for the government for his entire life. He was a
mhm,
Marine for
absolutely.
almost 20 years. Now he's been in law enforcement with the sheriffs for a long time as well. and he doesn't do anything about the quote unquote like investing. They invest my mom's salary, so that's kind of
Exactly.
the rest. Like they live off of what my dad makes, but he has he's relying on his pension when he
Mhm.
retires, and so he
Mhm.
doesn't know any better about investing and the sorts like that. So
Yeah,
what
they
are people
take
like that going
the
to get wiped
pensions fund.
out?
No, see, your parents are in the sweet spot. Their age is just fine. And I think, well, the government will has a lot of unfunded liabilities, but they're going to pay them, right? But it's just how are they going to continue to pay these unfunded liabilities? They're going to have to continue to print more money out of thin air, right? To be able to fund all of the money that they promise people that they're going to have. Um, they're not going to let these things completely fail, but you kind of just see the writing on the wall. And what kind of blew this whole pension thing and social security thing out of the water was is that people are just living longer. They had no idea this was going to happen because how a
Yeah.
pension and social security works, they'll pay you until you or until you're 6 feet under, right? Until you die. They're going to continue to pay you every single month until you're dead. And people are living longer now. I mean, in our lifetime, we're going to see the first person reach 120 years old, right? However we are, I mean, we're getting close there. I
I feel like
mean,
we've already
I
I feel like
know
we've already seen it. It's traditionally in the I think they call it the Okinawa diets, the people in
exactly.
the Asian
Mostly in
culture over there in
Japan. I
Japan.
think in America, we're going to
Yeah.
start. I think 100 is going to be the new 80 here, in
Ah,
my
yeah.
opinion. So and that's blowing these pensions, these actuarial formulas completely out of the water, right? They're blowing it up because traditionally people are just calling it quits at 60, and I mean, shoot, man, if you're living until 100, the government has to pay you every single month for 40 years. That doesn't add up for them.
Yeah.
And
How's that
so
going to work out?
there's the pension issue, and then there's the social security issue. I'm sure we all kind of understand what social security is, but I'll go over it super quick. When you turn 60, you can elect and the government just pays you every month for the rest of your life. That's social security benefits. And you can elect, I believe, at 61 and you get a little bit, but if you defer until you're 65, 70, you get more. You know what I mean? But if you look at all of your pay stubs out there that you get, I think you have to, what is it, like 1.4% of social security or something
Yeah,
like
I
that?
think everything gets
Gets
contributed that amount.
exactly out of every single paycheck. So, and that's going to get blown out of the water too, right? There's a lot of articles that we see out there that people our age, it's like, are we going to be able to get social security? We're going to get it, Emmett. We're going to receive social security, but our government, what's the writing on the wall, right? The government's going to have to keep printing money. They're going to have, and how does the government raise capital? They do it via the treasury market, the bond market, the note market. I mean, they've been active on there, right? And who buys our debt? Who owns our debt? Our own banks. It's a
Yeah, I was gonna
Ponzi
say
scheme.
it's
It's a Ponzi. So Goldman, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, Citigroup, they own our debt. Our own banks own our debt. China owns a lot of our debt.
yeah.
Russia
So
owns a lot
you,
of
I
our
didn't
debt,
want
but they're not
to.
buying it here. They're not buying more. So China is done at the debt window. I think they stopped 2 years ago. They stopped buying treasuries. They're holding them, but so someone's on the other side of this trade, right? And we pay interest every year, right?
Yeah.
Just like any. So we're literally paying. I think it's all close to $1 trillion of interest right now. Our own government interest that doesn't go to paying off the debt. Everyone, that's just interest. It's to service our debt. Holy fuck, that's horrible. So if rates keep going higher, Emmett, and if rates can get up over 4%, this country is going bankrupt because I think on an annual basis we do about 5 to 6 trillion in GDP, and if rates get up over closer to 5%, we're gonna like our cost of services. That's going to be like over half of the GDP this country actually produces. Um, it's a complete shit show. So then what do you do about it? Well, you can buy stocks. It actually works. You literally, like, you can just own stocks because they're dollar denominated, but they're actually not the dollar. And over the years, equities have been pretty good hedge against inflation. Man, cryptocurrency is doing really well right now, and other digital forms of stores of value. Anything that has scarcity out there, man, is just doing really good because in a world where people are just being sent $1,200 stimulus checks, multiple, we had another one, last year, and Look, universal basic income, is it coming here in America? Probably at some point. A UBI
Yeah,
of so I
UBI
think
is like
it
a super interesting topic. Like depending on who you talk to and how
it's
I think it's really interesting and like how it's going to be implemented is what people are really worried about. But again, sorry, go ahead.
no, it's not a good idea. I mean, oh my god. What? It's just not, man. I mean, if that happens, how can you hold the US dollar if they're just giving them away for free? It was just what they I just
But I
it's
think that's a lot, like a
crazy
lot
right
of people
now.
don't think that way. A lot of people think,
Oh,
okay, like
exactly.
I get my $1,200 check, like I'm just gonna save it, keep holding on to it. But
Or
there's people who
spend
like
it or go to
actually
Best
think
Buy and
about it,
buy a
like
large screen, you know?
exactly. Go, oh, I can go buy my new 8K TV, whatever,
Yeah.
and it's like,
Man, I'm scared, dude. I see the writing on the wall. Okay, so then you asked me about the metals. So I have been recently been a buyer. It was my first purchase. And super boomer, super traditional of me, but I'm a buyer here of physical metals, man. Hundred
okay,
I know
so kind
physical.
of
So I
explain like the kind because I have no idea. Like I think you sent me a video of something you bought, and
yep,
I was like where do you buy that from?
yep.
Like how do I buy like I know on Robinhood they used to have things where you can buy like certain assets of like crypto, but like so where can I physically go to buy that gold?
Metals,
Or
yeah.
where
So
yeah metals or where
really
can I go buy that on
there's a really
the
good dealer
platform?
here. Yeah, there's a really good dealer here. I could send it to you. I mean, I could probably tell you because everyone knows we're in Southern California. It's California Numismatic Investments here in the Inglewood area, kind of by LAX.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's golddealer.com is their website. They ship nationwide, but you can go to the physical location. Um, yeah, I love 100-ounce silver bars. The reason being silver is the most practical metal in the world. And the market is manipulated to go, they need to press the silver price down, and I'll tell you why. Apple, Tesla, General Motors, Qualcomm, Sony, Toshiba are huge users of silver and gold, but mostly silver. Inside all of these smartphones, this nice gaming PC I have here, this nice
Mm,
monitor,
these
all these
guys.
all these things, you need silver inside of them. And I'll tell you what, silver started off about 12 months ago at about 15 bucks. That was the spot price for a troy ounce. It's about like at 25 right now. So it's been on a little run. I mean, 15 to 25 really isn't 20. It's like 24 bucks 98 cents. That and so it got up to 30, and there was rumors that Apple said it stops. Apple literally said it stops here. Like this thing is can't go higher. Because look, if silver gets up to 50 bucks a troy ounce, Apple, Sony, Qualcomm, and Tesla are gonna get super pissed off. Because this is not what they modeled out in their business, right? They can't model 50 buck troy ounce silver. They need more of it, right? You know how much silver goes into these next gen electric vehicles? Tesla won't tell you, but it's a fuckload. Like there's been engineers within Tesla that have said, like, I mean, it's all pretty. They're a huge buyer of these 100 troy ounce industrial bars. They got to go to the factories, and they can't have them more expensive. So who? So on the futures market in the CME, there's a open short position on silver that's like 4 times like what's actually out there in the world, the supply. And it's Goldman and JP Morgan that just press the shit out of these things. JP Morgan just paid like $1 billion fine a year ago because they got caught doing this, manipulating the silver market, because Goldman has a great relationship with Apple. It's one of People say it's one of the best relationships between a bank and a company we've seen in a very long time. So Goldman goes out in the market and they press gold and silver lower because Apple needs gold and silver, gold as well. So people think gold is just a store of value, something that you just keep in a safe, and it is. But gold is very much used in also computers, phones, monitors, vehicles, right?
Yeah,
Gold
see,
and silver are
I
both.
might be a little bit out of touch, but that's what I was always led to believe that it was just a safe place to, like you said, a good store of value. I didn't know
You
it
don't
was
need as
used in
much.
everyday kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
you don't need as much gold to make a smartphone, but it's estimated about every 6 to 700 smartphones manufactured use an ounce of gold.
Oh yeah, see, it's still like it's
It's a little bit, yeah, but
yeah,
it's more silver is used in there. Now, another interesting thing with gold is dentists are big buyers of gold because that's how teeth
yeah.
crowns are made out of literally gold. So gold is very um you could put it in your mouth and you're going to be fine too. There's no it's what I like about gold is that it's on the periodic table, right? It's an element. This is science. This is real wealth, right? This is something like Northrop Grumman and Lockheed, they have gold and silver bars coming into their factories. They need it. They don't need tons of it, but they need it to make what they need to make, right? And I like the practicality of the metals. That's what kind of makes me very attracted to these things is that I just think over the next 30 to 40, 50 years, the world is going to be more dependent on electronics and gold and silver is a kind of a nice picks and shovels sort of way to be involved in it. Unfortunately, what sucks is that they have very liquid futures markets, gold and silver on the CME. And anywhere you get liquid futures markets, you get a lot of, of just fucking spoofing and bullshit from the
A
banks.
ton
You
of
know what I mean?
manipulation.
You
Yeah.
get a lot
I
of
think
manipulation. So I have a big position in Qualcomm. It's a company I really like. It's a semiconductor company that sells a lot of chips to Samsung, Apple, and Huawei. Um, and I'll also be a buyer of silver. I know Qualcomm needs silver, you know, and I like the company, but right. And they want silver to go lower, but I'll be a buyer of 100-ounce silver bars here. I really like the investment opportunity. And I think with this Green New Deal as well coming up, what solar panels need a lot of silver, Emmett. Solar panels need a lot of it. And so there was on after the GameStop thing, did you hear about the silver squeeze that they tried to do on Reddit? And it's still going
no,
on right
I
now.
didn't see any of that.
Oh, Reddit.
No.
There's on Wall Street Bets, there's a big subreddit for silver. People are trying to squeeze this thing because everyone knows that it's manipulated. Besides GameStop, silver is the most shorted investment vehicle out there, other than GameStop. It
Oh
has the highest
yeah,
short
this is
float out of anything. This the metal because they need to keep the price down for Apple and Tesla. They need and for this Green New Deal. So there's once this Green New Deal is passed, this the price is gonna they're gonna try to keep pressing this thing lower. But I mean, it's like a beach ball. It's like trying to press a beach ball into a pool, right? The lower you press it,
yeah,
the lower you press it
harder it
down. It's like
is.
and the hot. It's gonna pop higher, man. And
Yeah.
so gold and silver are manipulated. Gold has been very disappointing. It got over $2,000 an ounce earlier in 2020, and it's been a bit in a free fall down to 1700. I was a buyer literally in the low 1700s. I went to the dealer and I said, "This is I like the levels here." Same thing with silver around this price. I want to be an accumulator here, of physical of the physical metal. Now, the easiest way to get exposure is through gold, public gold mining stocks. Like there's Newmont, Barrick Gold, and you could buy these things. For silver, there's Pan American Silver, PAAS. Um, the
That's what I
mining
was kind of
stocks,
more
yeah,
looking at. Yeah, so
the
like
miners are good. I'm very interested in the 100-ounce silver bars, man, because they're cool. They're like little bit, they're like collectibles. There's different companies that mint them. There's Asahi, RCM metals. I mean, this is what the big boys buy. You know what I mean? The Northrops, the Lockheeds, they go out and buy these big industrial bars. You know,
do those matter who mints them, or is it
no, I mean,
just
so some of them
the
have
metal
different. Yeah,
itself?
the metal itself is important, but yeah, there's certain like Asahi silver bars are pretty sought after. They just look really nice, man. These big ass silver bars, they look cool, man. I like them a lot. Um, and I mean, and this isn't something I'm trying to flip, like, because the next week, this is more of, and it's a nice little Armageddon hedge. You know what I mean? When shit hits the fan, it's nice to own things that are super practical.
Yeah.
You know, um, people, that's what I like about it. And we could a lot of people go into the fact like, hey, in ancient Egypt, they didn't have fiat currency. They were, exchanging gold coins. I mean, we're never gonna go back there again. I'm not gonna get like super like fucking dumb. Like there's like some gold and silver bugs that are like super weird. But I mean, if you look over the years, fiat currencies all fail. If you look at over the last over thousands of years of history, fiat currencies are paper currency, right? Like US dollar. They all
Yeah.
fail, Emmett. They literally all fail. Any currency backed by the government always fails. There's a really good track record for it. Keep going back. I get it.
So then
Every
what's like
single one
the
fails. And
that's what I
they
was kind
all
of like getting
they all
into
go
as
to
well.
shit.
Like what's the so like that's the whole thing is like usually they leave the people like holding the bag, but like
Yes.
who gets like I mean if you look at every other time where a market has crashed and things like that, the people are left the ones that are like that are holding it. But where do we go after the fiat currency fails? So like where do they get
Nobody
into?
knows. That's why it's kind of like that's why Bitcoin is out on an absolute run right now because a lot of some of these cryptocurrencies have really good underlying network infrastructure to them that's a lot more sophisticated than just a fucking US dollar sitting in
Yeah.
an online checking account. You know what I mean?
So I
So
knew you were like you last time we talked were like really bear on Bitcoin and crypto in general. Have you changed your mind on that?
how long ago was that?
Um, it's got to be like when was the last time we met? It was like 3 or 4 months ago, 5 months ago, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I things have gotten out of hand there, man. I mean, come on. It's just I think PayPal and Square getting into it makes some sense, but I mean, I'm more critical of the people that are that are getting into it and just hey, like let me buy Bitcoin up here at 58,000. I mean, dude, you fucking missed it so bad. Like, don't make God damn, like some people
But
just
like
missed it and they're just gonna pile in here and they're gonna get hurt, in my opinion. But I think there's use case to it. I would, yeah,
that's kind
it's
of my next thing. It's like, but did they really miss it though? Like, there's a lot of analysts that are saying this is going to go to 250 by the end of the year.
oh, that's awesome, man. They probably missed it too, dude. Honestly, I don't like. What are you just gonna capitulate now and just keep? I mean, oh my god,
Which is also
but
kind of
here,
tough because in 2016 there was a lot of the analysts at Goldman were saying like all crypto is shit and it's going to
and
go
then
to
now
zero.
they want to open it up to their clients
Yeah.
here at 58,000. You know what I mean? So they hated Bitcoin at 1,000, and it ripped their face off for 580,000% return, whatever you want to call it, and
Even
then.
in 13 you can get it for like $70 a pop for
Yeah,
per
and
coin. Now they're
they
getting
hated
fucking
it
throttled.
so they hated it there, and then now they like it here 58,000. It's just like holy shit.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of my thing. It's just like, oh, you love it now, sort of thing. Like, oh my god, dude. Um, I mean, it's nothing that happened with Bitcoin. It's just all the government. You know what I mean? Just what's happened over the last 12 months. I think the outlook for Bitcoin makes a lot more sense with what the government has been doing over the last 12 months. And that's not something that I accounted for before it. I actually like cryptocurrency, but it's still not really my thing, man. It's just
Yeah. So
personally,
like if crypto is like you said, I like it. I think it could be good for like all the positive reasons that a lot of people say, like decentralization, all that other kumbaya stuff, whatever. But like if the tool is as powerful as its followers say it is, there's no way someone like the US government is gonna let that thing win. Like the US government letting Bitcoin win makes no sense. Like they lose all leverage on its people.
yeah. And then you ask the central bankers, they just have the same fucking answer. They just beat around the bush. I mean, yeah, it's embarrassing, and all these government officials, it's just embarrassing what's been going on. I mean, you have things like Dogecoin. I mean, they should all be embarrassed. All these people in Congress that are passing these $1 trillion packages and seeing Dogecoin just rip face. I mean, what the hell's going on? And it's not even that dumb. People are telling me like, oh my god, look at Dogecoin. This is so stupid. I mean, who's more stupid? People holding dollars, US dollars, or people holding Dogecoin? At least they're not
Like
printing like trillions of. units of Dogecoin every fucking month and just sending free Dogecoin to everyone. I mean, honestly, so I don't even think anything's stupid anymore. I just don't agree with people chasing something that's already up super huge. I don't think that's how you make money personally. But um
Yeah, like I follow a guy, like a crypto guy, like he missed it back in 13 and like the fifth, and like it went up to in 15, like 2015, it went to 700. So like a long ways away from 70 2 years ago. But now he was buying it in 2019 or like that area around like 10 or 11,000. And that's a thing
he's still
he was
yeah.
comfortable like making it. He still made a ton of, he made a killing off of it, not as much as he would have back then, but he still made a killing. But again, now he's not a buyer at 60,
Everything's priced
70
in.
going up.
Yeah. It's a lot of what's occurred is priced in. Bitcoin was a really good buy back then because I mean shit, you didn't really know that the government was going to do what they're doing, like literally handing people free money. Like I mean,
Yeah.
if you told me 3 years ago or like when I was in college that hey, like in the next like 5 to 6 years the government's just going to be sending you checks for doing absolutely nothing, I would have laughed in your face and been like, "Are
Dude,
you
I
kidding me? Like, do I live in a? Will I still? I would say, will I still be living in America?" And they said, "Yeah, the American government's gonna be doing it." And I would have bet you a lot of money that that wouldn't happen, but and I'd be wrong.
I would have said you're
So
crazy.
yeah, exactly. So everything that I kind of thought of about currency, I've thrown out the window after what our government has been doing. I mean, that's why it's just man, it's crazy what's going on. I like to be involved in things that actually have some scarcity value, and people find value in different sorts of things. And I think that's anything that you're doing that isn't just sitting in US dollars, I think makes a lot of, or fiat, whether you live in another country. And I just I want people to find ways to get the hell out of fiat currency, man. It's just, and whether it's cryptocurrency and other things like that, I think it makes sense. Obviously, have enough cash to be able to like buy yourself a lunch, every day and things like that. And a rainy day, if someone in your family needs help and there's an emergency, have enough cash for that. I mean, the best thing about cryptocurrency and equities is they're very liquid, you know, and even
Yeah.
NFTs, right? There's liquid daily markets for this stuff.
Oh yeah, like there's a market for, there's, like I said, I named a few, but there's multiple other markets that are just, that are so where you can take your crypto and just easily cash out. So
Yeah. So exactly, there's really not the biggest reason to just be, oh my gosh, just sitting in cash while the government is just just has
I,
absolutely no idea. Oh, like they know what they're doing, but it's just they just really don't care because what they're doing hurts the common American because it's the middle class of America and blue collar that we have to, people have to use US dollars to actually pay for rent, pay for groceries, pay for food. The wealthiest of the wealthy, they just borrow, right? They just borrow money. And borrowing money is awesome because then the value of your debt load is going down as they as they devalue the currency. So it's a win-win. They like
I think
the wealthiest of the wealth, the people that hoard real estate and that have huge equity positions, dude, they just put all their expenses on an Amex and pay it 30 days later. It's like actually normal people that have to pay money for groceries, and
I just,
inflation. Yeah,
I don't use, it sounds like very like, I don't know, like prissy or like upfront, like I don't know, why do I even say this? Like I'm tooting my own horn, but like I, I don't use a debit card. I don't own it. Like it's just not like, why would I use that when I can just borrow money? Like you said,
exactly.
like
And
put it on my Amex and then pay it off in
30
30
it's 30
days. Like
days later, so you
yeah,
don't get that nice time value of money, but you get that nice 30-day kind of time value of money sort of thing going there. But yeah, I mean, oh my gosh, I don't even know what's going on, man. Um, any other
I think a lot
any other
of what I
points that
was
you
kind
have?
of,
Oh,
yeah,
and
just
here's
about
another.
like, go ahead.
Remember the first episode I talked about how we were the first generation to not have a proper savings account.
That's also what I was kind of
And
like
that's just
was gonna
like, dude,
touch up on.
isn't it crazy how so rates the front end of the yield curve, which is what or gets paid out in like normal savings account, is still at 0%. It's the long end. It's like the 30-year and the 20-year treasury that are rising right now because the Fed can control the 3-month treasury market really well because the maturity is so much closer and they could really manipulate it to press it down. But
Yeah.
the 20-year and the 30-year, that can get out that they can't control that too well. That's more of an actual market. And the 30-year is up over 2%. The 10-year is sitting like right around 1.7. They can't control that too well. The maturity is too far out. The market's too good out when you go out to a 10-year maturity.
Hmm.
Um, so that's why savings accounts are still yielding 0%. I mean, and they can do this because they tell us that there is no inflation. They that's what the readings show. Like CPI, it's that doesn't show that inflation has been hot. That it's because the way that inflation is measured is outdated. So they're able to manipulate that too. The largest weighting in the inflation index is energy and like gas, which have the prices haven't been anywhere, but they don't measure education costs like tuition, healthcare costs, health insurance premiums, things
For
like
sure.
that, like things that actually go up. I mean,
Yeah.
I wish universities were publicly traded. Oh my God, they just can raise tuition 10% every year and no one bats an eye.
It's that's it's
Or I mean, health insurance premiums getting jacked up 8% every year. But that's not measured in inflation. They're still measuring like, oh, it's okay, price at the pump sort of thing is fine, even though that's getting out of hand too. So that's how
so
they're able to
the other thing
manipulate it.
is
And
like the biggest things in those in the education markets, those are, if you, I mean, if you look back at the, like during the height of COVID-19 and when the government was handing out money, like some of those schools were the biggest collectors of those PPP loans when they have billion-dollar endowments, which just
oh,
doesn't make any
they're
sense.
just hedge funds. These things are just hedge funds disguised as schools. That's
Yeah,
all
which
these.
is
All these. It's a
it's
joke.
genius, but like it's like
Oh,
you
it's
said,
so
like it's
smart because they don't get taxed. They don't get taxed on their gains. Yeah, all Ivy League schools are just hedge funds disguised as.
those are the more obvious ones. Like
Yeah,
those are the more obvious ones that people are now starting to be like, okay, is this really a school or are we really just contributing to, like you said, like a hedge fund? Is that what's really going on here?
and then they just pay all their buddies that work for the endowment. That's
Ex-
pretty much that's pretty much what it's a.
Yeah, they
It's
pay
crazy,
some
man.
PE firm that works out of the
Exactly.
79th floor in Manhattan, who manages the money, and they all get their cut. It goes around in circles.
Exactly.
It's
All
just a
their
big
friends.
old.
It's a Ponzi scheme. It literally is. And I think that's what people are starting to realize now. It's like, holy shit, like we've
At the
been
same
taught.
time, like they're not. Like the people, a
Yeah, they
lot of them
have
are
you.
being fed that it's still, oh, higher education, this, that, and the other. Like I agree, education's a great tool. Getting a little off topic, but it's still it's one of those things that's right in plain sight, but they're telling everyone it's not there.
Yeah, I there needs to be a complete shakeup of education in America. It's just so outdated, man. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Like I don't know. I mean, just to
I mean, did you, just for another example, like we'll keep riffing off this, like did you by chance happen to see that the Netflix documentary on a lot of this stuff here about the scandal of
oh
people
my
paying their
god.
kids to get into
Then
school and
there's
stuff?
that too. It's just like what the hell's the point of
It just
what's the point of
completely, like we
school?
said, like it reinforces the fact that a lot of these people weren't, it wasn't like everyone, oh, it's like the Hollywood actors, like the tabloids, like the majority of wasn't, they weren't Hollywood actors that were paying these people to get into schools. It was people from big hedge funds
Yep.
out in Boston and New York area, like the Greenwich, Connecticut's, like
Yep.
the Hyannisport, like those places, the big wealthy areas that were paying them to get into Ivy Leagues, like you said, where their buddies work at on the
It's
big firms and they run the education system too. Like it's a
that's
big
crazy.
circle.
It's just the whole education system needs to be overthrown in America. I mean, for kids to go to school just to get drunk every day for 4 or 5 years to get some degree. I mean, it's great for like a social aspect, and like I had a lot of fun, but I mean, looking back, you're like, holy shit, like
Exactly.
I mean, they're doing things a lot differently in China, Emmett. Like
Yeah,
they
that's
go
what I'm
to
saying.
school, they
Like
actually learn things.
it was
Like
like
they
I had a great
actually,
like 4-year vacation. Like
yeah,
it
I
was
know.
awesome, man.
Like, and like other in like China and Korea, like when you go to school, you actually go out learning something, like
Yeah.
learning how to make chips, or like, you know, actually knowing how to do something. Here in America, it's just like, you go get drunk for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah,
And,
people like you
and yeah,
said,
they're
people in
just like,
China, Japan, like Korea, all these schools, like they come out, they learn. It's a lot of like they come out either bi or like trilingual. They know a lot of different languages. They can code, like they can do and like engineering. It's unreal what they learn in
yeah, they
their
actually,
schools
yeah,
compared to ours.
China graduates 7 times more STEM degrees than
Yeah.
America: science, technology, engineering, and math.
And
And
it's
we're just I was just pumping kegs and shit,
yeah.
but I know how to pump a fucking keg
I was getting
and
drunk at a
play, and
tailgate, you
yeah,
know.
I
That's
know how to tailgate, pump a keg, and play beer die a lot better than the Chinese students. So, but they know how to fucking code and make chips and shit. So who won? You know what
but
I mean?
we're the global leader in
Exactly.
the economy here. We'll keep
Yeah,
telling
man.
ourselves that.
Dude, I think trade school needs to be a bigger deal, man. I think 2 to 3 year trade, actually teaching people practical skills rather than just going to school to do keg stands for 4 years, makes a lot more sense. But I mean,
Exactly.
I met some of my best friends and colleagues in college, so I wouldn't take that back for anything. And I guess you could make a debate like, oh, what's more important, actually knowing how to do things, or doing keg stands and playing beer die? I mean, I think people go to college for actually good reasons. They learn things. I think a majority of college students, though, could literally tell you that. I mean, shit, like there really
Exactly.
wasn't there
Yeah.
really
There's no
wasn't
point
much
in why
done.
they
Yeah.
went. Like, yeah, 100%.
Oh man, and I mean, it poses a good question, man. I mean, what's more important, you know?
I think
But
it's
yeah,
like you
that's
said, like it's at the end of the day, who uses like no one actually in America uses what they got and it called like their degree for. No one's actually in. I can tell you, like 9 times out of 10, people are saying, "Oh, I got a degree in like marketing communications," and like they work HR at a company or something like
yeah.
along
Oh
those lines.
yeah.
Like
No,
you
it's
didn't use your
all
degree.
all dude. There's so many cases like that, because it's more about the connections that you make, and things of that sort. But
Yeah,
I
and again,
still
that goes
also
back to the area of like why people are paying to get their kids into these schools. Is
exactly, yeah,
it's
yeah,
the connections are the ones that's why people do what they
yep,
do. The
yep,
connections are going to come out on top regardless.
yep. Yeah, that's a I'm glad we talked about that. School, man, it's fucking crazy. Anything else you want to talk about?
Episode 6, it's a wrap. It was a pleasure filming with Jamie Bell again. Slowly becoming my new co-host, but overall great episode. Touched on a lot of things, inflation, national debt, where it's being held and who's holding it, hedge against inflation, metals, and other NFTs and cryptos. We will be jumping on again. You'll see us next week. For those of you stuck around this far, I appreciate the love, and do us a huge favor is give us a rating over on Apple Podcasts. We'd greatly appreciate it. Love all of you guys who are liking, subscribing, commenting, everything like that on the YouTube channel. If you guys would love for you guys, if you guys have any other questions, shoot us questions on Twitter, everything like that. We've been sifting through Twitter questions. So if you have anything, send it our way. But again, that was episode 6 of Outside the Lines podcast. Look forward to seeing you guys soon. Cheers. Happy investing, everyone.